Welcome back to Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. I'm so glad to have you here as we are kicking off the month of November. Yes, this is the month of November. We're in season 8 of the Harmonize Your Life podcast, and this is the month of November, the first episode in the month of November. As we close out our year, the month of November closes out our season, the season 8 of the podcast, and it closes out our year 2022 here in our podcast. As you know, if you've been following us, we are 3 months on and 1 month off in terms of our podcast. And so season 8 includes the sessions or the episodes from September, October, and now November. I am so delighted to kick off this month, this particular episode, as a salute to women veterans. So, we're going to be talking about self care and female or women veterans right after this. So, stay with us. Our guest today is Ginger Miller. Ginger Miller is a native New Yorker and former homeless service disabled Navy veteran turned White House champion of change for women veterans and president and CEO of the Women Veterans Interactive Foundation. After caring for her husband, a disabled veteran who suffered from post traumatic stress disorder for over a decade and experiencing homelessness with her family, Mrs. Miller vowed to be victorious and worked 3 jobs and went to school full time to pull her family out of homelessness. Determined to give back to her fellow veterans, Mrs. Miller formed the nonprofit organization John 14:2 Incorporated in 2009, which was instrumental in starting the first Prince George's County Homeless Veterans School, stand down. Through Ginger's advocacy and outreach efforts with John 14:2, she hosted veteran roundtables in Annapolis, Maryland. In 2011, Ginger started Women's Veterans Interactive, a division of John 14:2, with a mission of meeting women veterans at their points of need through advocacy, empowerment, interaction, outreach, and unification. Women's WVI took off and became a leading member-based nonprofit organization for women veterans, supporting more than 6,500 women veterans since inception. In 2018, the Women's Veterans Foundation became a standalone nonprofit organization with approval from the IRS in 15 days. Women Veterans Interactive Incorporated was formed. Under Ginger's leadership, Women Veterans Interactive Incorporated forged ahead to create impactful solutions, programs that would address the unique needs of women veterans. Mrs. Miller has worked diligently to secure critical partnerships needed to deliver support services to women veterans through WVI programs. Some partners and grantors include the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs Center for Minority Veterans and the Center for Women Veterans, Virginia Department of Veterans Services, Blacks in Government, the Starbucks Foundation, PNC Bank, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Bristol Myers Squibb, Amazon, USAA, Comcast, NBC Universal, Medallia, and the Atlanta Women's Club. Wow. Ginger, you have done some amazing work with women veterans. And I want to welcome you to the Harmonize Your Life podcast as we talk today about self care, health, and wellness for women veterans. Thank you for being with us today.
You know what? Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Alvarado. And I'm really loving your introduction where you're walking through your kitchen, having that cup of tea because it's just so calm and relaxing. And even after you read my bio, I'm like, okay, we need to go back to that intro because that bio is kind of hectic. Like, because I know all the steps and stages it took to get to that point. So I'm just really honored to be here today, especially since we are coming up on Veterans Day. And again, I just love that intro. And after this, I want to find out more about what you're doing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We started this podcast in 2020, actually, right at the start of the pandemic was when we launched, and we didn't know when we launched the podcast in March that we would be in full-fledged in a pandemic. We started working on
Mm,
it in January 2020 with plans to launch it in March. And little did we know that when we launched these conversations on self-care, health, and wellness, particularly geared toward women of color, that we would that our health care, and health issues will be at the center of our society. The discussions around
mhm,
health and wellness and mental health and all those things, because of the pandemic, it
mhm,
really forced us to look at the way we are living and the way we are doing life, and whether or not we are taking care of ourselves. So thank you for agreeing to be a part of of these conversations that we have been having now since 2020. This is our
mhm,
third year of running this podcast, and I have to say that we have had some amazing conversations. If you go back into our catalog, you'll hear from medical doctors, from psychiatrists, mental health professionals, fitness professionals,
mm,
nutritionists, nurses, doctors, all from every walk of life. And I have to say, this is the first time we focused on veterans, on female or women veterans. And so thank you for agreeing to have this conversation about self-care, health, and wellness for our veterans. And
mhm.
I want to say thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much, Dr. Alvarado.
Thank you. Thank you. So I read a little bit of your story, but there's nothing like people telling their own story. I always say the bios are kind of give you an idea of our accomplishments and what we've done, but then there's a story behind it. And so
Correct.
would you share some of your story and what motivated you besides your own homelessness, which I know was a big motivating factor in wanting to start a foundation? Because I mean, you could have just worked on just getting your family out of homelessness, but then you went back and
Mhm,
decided to bring others out with you.
mhm.
What was your motivation?
And you know what? I'm so glad that you asked that question because a lot of people always ask, like, oh, well, how did you get out of it? Right? Rarely do I get what was your motivation, but even more important than that is why I keep going because in this veteran community, it's almost like a hostile environment. It's not an environment that's really friendly to, women veterans in leadership capacities, and it's not really friendly to Black women veterans.
Wow.
So, my story is, my parents are immigrants from Honduras and they didn't have money for me to go to college. So I went into the Navy to get the GI Bill, which I thought would be, something great. You have that adventure. Um, but like a lot of veterans today, we're talking the early 90s. I got married. My husband is a Marine who has post traumatic stress disorder. So he got out of the military. I was supposed to stay in for 20 years. I ended up getting a medical discharge, and
Wow.
here we are in our 20s, very unskilled, went back to New York to stay with my family on a temporary basis. And when that didn't work out, that's how we became homeless. It didn't have anything to do with abusing drugs or alcohol. Contrary to popular belief, people think that, oh, if you're homeless, like you had to do something really bad or you have to be abusing drugs or alcohol. But for us, we did something really good that turned into something really bad because we both became disabled veterans at a very young age. So
Wow.
for me personally, because I am a go-getter and I know that everybody can't be a Ginger Miller, I worked 3 jobs, went to school full time to I did what I had to do. Like I've always been ambitious. I've always had big dreams. I've always had big goals. But unfortunately for me, I just had like a little bump in the road that I had to get over. But it was also something that I knew I could get over.
Wow.
So for me personally, like when it happened, it wasn't like, okay, you're stuck. What are you gonna do? Put your hair out. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Take, your pen and put it to a piece of paper and figure how you're gonna get out of here.
Hmm.
Like you're not gonna stay here, Ginger Miller, because if you stay, your husband stays, your son stays. Like I've always wanted like the best of everything that life had to offer, me
Okay.
personally. And then when that happened, we got out of it. And I said, you know what? We moved from New York to Maryland just to have a slower pace of life. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to start a nonprofit organizations to help veterans because there's not any reason why anybody who have worn the uniform of these here United
Mhm.
States of America, when you take it off, you should be homeless. So I started doing that with my first nonprofit, John 14:2 Inc., which is the scripture from the Bible.
Mhm.
Um, and then from there, it was like one of those things, as women, we do everything for everybody.
Mhm.
We cook, we clean, you want to make sure that the house is on order, yada, yada, yada. I started thinking like, okay, so you're Ginger Miller, you know, wife, mother, caregiver, veteran, disabled veteran. And last thing I thought was woman veteran. Like I always knew I was a veteran, but
Oh.
the woman veteran part, I just didn't make that instant connection, but I knew I was a veteran. Like, so when I was a commissioner on the Maryland Commission for Women, and I've had several appointments, since that time, just by giving back.
Okay.
And when you get recognized for giving back, like there's no better feeling than that because you don't do it for the recognition, but for somebody to say, I see you, I want you to sit on my board, I want you to sit on my commission, that's a big deal. So
Mhm.
we did a Women Veterans Empowerment Unification Cruise back in 2012, just to support women veterans for Women's History Month. But almost 300 women veterans, 250 women veterans showed up in 30 days. And then we started having these conversations and it's like wait a minute, so there needs to be more. So when I recognized the need, I went from John 14:2 Inc. to DBA, Women Veterans Interactive, that turned into Women Veterans Interactive Inc. and now the Women Veterans Interactive Foundation. So back to your point of, okay, so what is it that drives you? And it's not what drives me, it's what keeps me here.
Okay. Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because
Uh-huh.
you could drive and go nowhere, but we've gone somewhere. We've been plenty of places. But what is it that's keeping Ginger Miller on the road? And it's the women that we serve. It's the women who have served and sacrificed for this country because the need is real. And because I am a woman veteran, I started from the bottom. Now I'm here. Like I understand that need from the bottom all the way up to the top. And
Okay.
because we have made an impact, it
Mhm.
makes me stay here.
Okay. Well, I mean, sis, you have definitely made an impact. I mean, just reading your bio, and then of course, you were recommended to me by a mutual friend, Michelle Johnson, who is a veteran, uh,
Hmm.
and she talks so highly of the work that you are doing there with the with WVI Foundation. And so, when you talked about, you said something. You said you knew where you were a veteran, but you hadn't considered the woman part.
Hmm.
You hadn't considered the fact that you were a female veteran, a woman veteran. So, what are some of the issues that, as women veterans, what are some of the specific issues that women veterans must consider,
Hmm.
or
Yeah.
we must know about when
Mhm.
because we have women veterans in our family, in our church, in our community, whether we're a veteran or not. Everybody knows a veteran, or everybody has had
True.
a family member or friend to go into the military. I don't think there's anybody I know that would not know someone that has done service in our U.S.
Mhm.
military. And so, when it comes to female issues, women issues, what are some of the things that women veterans or issues that we must know about, be concerned about as it relates to women who are veterans?
Thank you so much for that question, and thank you for saying that because we all know a veteran somewhere, somehow,
Mhm.
our neighborhood, our churches, wherever. But you know, this is where I think the real problem lies because women veterans, we have a unique set of issues, right? And some folks may say, well, men have PTSD, military sexual trauma is MST, men and women are being raped in the military. What sets us apart is not so much as the issues. Although, like, all of our data shows that women veterans are the fastest growing segment of the homeless population.
Uh-huh.
We are X times more likely to be unemployed than our counterparts or women who have never served, right? But then someone would say, well, an issue is an issue is an issue.
Mhm. Mhm.
You are correct with that. Where we miss the ball at is the solutions.
Ah, okay.
that deal with those issues. So even if let's say if you know a woman veteran that may be in distress, she may not tell you, but she's going to tell me
Okay. Okay.
because women veterans are naturally attracted to who we are, and it
Mhm.
goes back to what I said earlier when I did this event. Like they all came out. So it's like, wait a minute. So when you look at the solutions that people want to provide for women veterans, that's where it has to be different. You know, one of the things we do at WVI, we have all of these wonderful outreach and engagement events, but they all are really geared towards the women who have served the country. And if that makes sense, like we gear towards the woman first based upon her service to the country. So whereas you and I could go to a brunch together, a women's brunch, oh, we're gonna have a great time, right?
Uh-huh.
You will walk away fulfilled. I'm gonna walk away half fulfilled
Well,
because
and why is that?
I didn't hear about the benefits that I'm entitled to for serving my country. I was not connected to any other women veterans. I didn't hear from the VA. I didn't hear from Department of Labor. The ecosystems are different.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
see what I'm saying? So when you look at a women veterans ecosystem compared to her male counterpart, the ecosystems are different. And in that ecosystem lies these solutions. And that this is where I think a lot of people miss it. And they say, oh, I it's just so hard to reach women veterans. We had something and nobody showed up. Well, because you're not really a part of our ecosystem. You have to come into to where we are to get to know us and let us drive that train. And I tell people all the time, partner with WVI. We have them in the car with us. You can get in the car with us or we'll meet you at the next stop. But we
Oh,
have that ecosystem that women veterans trust. So
okay.
when you say the issues, post traumatic stress disorder, homelessness, unemployment, military sexual trauma, depression, some women, veterans are single parents, they usually have the kids when they're homeless sleeping in their cars. So a lot of our issues are similar to our male counterparts, but they're also similar to women who have never served. When you talk about domestic violence, the health
Mm,
and wellness, but why do we have these health and wellness issues? It's because of the things that we did in the military, in addition to other health and wellness issues that
that we
women
would normally deal with. Exactly.
absolutely.
So
Hmm.
so being in the military kind of almost exacerbates what what I may be experiencing as a woman who've never served in the issue of health and wellness or mental health. Then add on top of that, serving in the military, it exacerbates whatever the issue could be.
You know what it does, and that's why the unique solutions. Whereas you may be able to sit there. I'm going to always go back to your tea because it just looks like I need to be in that room sipping that tea to get rid of some of this
Well, I'm
anxiety.
gonna send you some of my tea. So
Send me some of your tea,
you
please, do.
can
But
have I have on my website,
oh, you do?
yes,
I
I
have to check it out.
I have a tea blend called Harmony tea. And it
Mm.
is a tea blend that I put together with one of my members of my church. She's an herbalist, and
Oh,
it has
wow.
yes, it has cincha and rose petals, and
Oh.
it has lavender in it. All the stuff that make you just relax.
Relax. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm not a tea drinker, but I'm gonna get some of that tea and I'm gonna drink it. And
Okay,
maybe it may, do something for me.
yeah,
Because sometimes I really do need to relax. I'm gonna need to fix my little light here.
that's okay.
Um, but nevertheless, and I don't think it's coming back, Dr. Alvarado. Let me
That's
see.
okay. You fine. You look good.
Can you send me? You can. Okay, great. So what I was saying was, whereas, okay, if we could both maybe have some type of anxiety and drink the tea and get relaxed. But what is the cause of our anxiety? Mine's may be military related, yours is not going to be. So
Right.
whereas I can do the tea, but I may also need to do a little bit something else to curb whatever it is that's causing it. So it's the root of the problem that people need to get to. And again, that's what makes us different from, the men and from women who have not served. So what we've always done at WVI is we've always focused on solutions. And we've always been um proactive versus reactive.
Okay. And so when you talk about the solutions and some of the resources, what type of resources do you offer?
So let me tell you, and we're done with programs right now, but all of the programs that we have at WVI have been grown organically. The first one is Operation Safety Net, and it's exactly how it sounds. That's one of the programs that's near and dear to my heart because it's our homeless women veteran prevention program. So we
Okay.
could pay for first month rent, security deposit, stop evictions. If you're dealing with food insecurities, we can help you out with that as well. In certain cases, if the VA is not picking up for medication, we could do that. In extreme cases, if somebody, let's say, is going to have their car repossessed and they need that car to get to work, we could do that as well. But a lot of what we do in that program is food insecurities and taking women veterans who are homeless, putting them in hotels so we can get them off the street and then get them to the VA so that they can get the help that they need from the VA.
Okay.
Another program we have is the one that Michelle is in right now is Beyond the Transition, which is a part of our Women Veterans Transition Space program, where
Mhm.
we support women veterans who are transitioning out of the military to make sure that they have a safe place to unpack some of the things that we just talked about, but
Mhm.
also introduce them to different opportunities that they could probably, take advantage of when they get out the military. Because, you may be a cook in the military for, let's say, 30 years. And when you get out, you don't want to cook anymore, but what are my options? And a
O
lot of times we'll jump and take that first job because we need the money versus exploring what's really out there and then making that decision for us. So it really takes women veterans through a series of virtual programs, workshops with different speakers from the VA and a lot of different folks from corporate America, nonprofit. And then we have a 2-day in-person event in Washington, D.C. And this year is our first cohort, and we're planning to take a tour of the White House, which is going to be amazing, for the women to see the White House. But it's all about options, Dr. Alvarado, and it's all about, knowledge. They say knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you grow. And that's the Women Veterans Transition Space program. And then we also have a pink and white Women Veterans Empowerment Tour. We were just in Atlanta, which I had known you. We were just in Atlanta for October 15th, sponsored by JP Morgan Chase. And with that pink and white empowerment tour, we just go from city to city, have this amazing brunch with the women, bring in our sponsors. They know about different things, credit, home ownership,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, but it's the fellowship that really matters to these women and growing their networks and being tied into an organization like WVI. And I could tell you that program was not supposed to be a program or event was not supposed to be an event. But in 2016, we had just changed our logo and I did a brunch in Arlington, Virginia. And I told all the members to come. We gave out the membership packages. But prior to that, I said, everybody show up in pink and white because our logo is pink and white. You see my wall behind me is pink. I'm all in the WVI colors. And, through the power of social media, when we put the photos out there, women veterans from around the country started saying, "Well, Miss Ginger, when are you coming to my city?" And I'm like, "Your city to do what?" "Well, to have that pink and white brunch." And believe it or not, that year it turned into a thing. We did 6 cities in 5 months, over 300 women veterans. And then, we earlier discussed the pandemic. Through the pandemic, we did the pink and white brunch virtually every Monday from 12 to 1, and the women showed up virtually in their pink and white. So it's all about, again, what
Yeah.
is my ecosystem? What
Yeah.
is out there for me, just for me, so I can unpack the things that I need to unpack and be uplifted and know that I'm not alone in the things that I'm going through that is military related. And because I'm going through these things, at the end of the day, it's fixable. Suicide is not an option. And for me,
Mhm.
with these women, it's that serious.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like to me you have a very holistic approach
We do.
in the way that you are addressing the needs of women veterans. So,
We do.
this whole idea of self care, health, and wellness is not just their mental health, it's not just their physical health, but it's also dealing with their skill acquisition, with their
Mhm,
career goals, their
mhm,
opportunities that may exist for them, housing,
mhm.
employment, transportation. So, I like that. So, it's a very holistic approach to dealing with
Yeah,
and assisting and helping.
and correct. And a lot of times when people talk about mental health and wellness, what is that really? Like, what is the drivers behind that? How do you even get to the point to where your mental health and wellness is at risk? So what we try to do is to take away all of those things that will put you at risk, but doing it in a manner, as to your point, that is holistic and not intrusive.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
see what I mean? So we would never say, "Oh, well, this pink and white breakfast is going to stop you from committing suicide," or "This pink and white breakfast is all about mental health," and we know what it is.
Mhm.
but it's the atmosphere that we create that makes a difference.
Okay. All right. So you've created the atmosphere that speaks to their mental, a healthy mental health, or
Mhm.
a holistic approach to life. And
Yes.
I'm sure that that provides a sense of security and peace
Mhm.
and hope to the veterans.
Mhm, mhm, and hope is a major factor because it's when you get to the point in your life that you lose hope, that's when you give up, and that's when you turn to other means, and you feel like you don't need to be here anymore. And for me personally, like, I'm grateful to God because even in my worst times, I never gave up hope because I know God is real to me,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
I know that when you lose hope, you lose everything. And sometimes it's too hard to come back from that. Like
Yeah.
everybody can't recover from that. So if we can, you know, instill hope and let you know that it's hope. You have options, help is here, whatever that help may look like. Because everybody it may not be on the same mental health and wellness wavelength. Some person may just need a friendly hello, where
Yeah.
some people one woman veteran may need to get referred right to the VA. And also I think that's what people miss it because we don't have a one shoe fits all approach. We have the whole spectrum and it goes back to the ecosystem and the atmosphere.
Okay. Now, Ginger, are you training other women in your ecosystem? I like the way you put that. Some would call it network or orbit. But are you training other women veterans like Michelle and others to provide the maybe coaching, mentoring, support for these women that are attending the programs?
Okay, so one of the things we do, to your point, we have a paid membership, also a free membership, but then we also have chapters around the country. And the way I design it is that each chapter is set up like a small social service arm of national, meaning that if there's a woman veteran in distress, they have the means to support that woman in the local community,
Okay.
right? They have an operation safety net. They raise their own funds. They have to volunteer their time. But when it comes to like the programs that we do on national, that's a national thing. And hopefully, as we continue to grow, we can have some of that in the local communities as well. But you know, me personally, I love going around from state to state to state, being with the women, but we do lean in on our local partners more and our sponsors more to bring in some of this like mentoring and coaching as you mentioned.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good, 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 good. So how important is family support and other support systems? I know that you were saying that a lot of times if we're not a part of your ecosystem, then maybe the women don't feel like they've gotten the help that they really need, or they may be helped but may feel like something was missing. So what can we do, those of us who are non-military family members, pastors, leaders in the community, what type of support can we provide?
Well, to your point, you are a part of our ecosystem,
Okay.
but a lot of times people or agencies may feel like they're the ecosystem. The ecosystem is vast.
Okay.
There's different layers to it, and I think when you look at like if you take like years ago, like when we were in school, you would cut like the earth in the middle, and you would see like the different
Mhm.
cores and the different inner circles. Like so, you have the woman veteran at that core, and then like the next circle will probably be her
Mhm.
family or maybe women veterans. It just depends, but it keeps going around and around. So
Mhm.
everybody can be a part of a woman veterans ecosystem. I think it just depends on what level you come in at and if it's a high touch or a low touch. But as far as the community, like there's always things that the community can do to support women veterans, especially around, the holiday time. A lot of women veterans may be down on their luck. If you could do a turkey drive and give them meals, food insecurities is real. A lot of women veterans may not have, food for the holidays for I was trying my best to prevent that. Could not. I apologize. I could not. I'll make sure that we can't see him. I was trying to but I
It's
mean that
okay. This
that's
is
the tr
real life.
that it is, you know what? And that's one of the things that the pandemic has taught us, that life is real,
It's
you
real.
know?
It's,
Like
my son says sometimes my dog, when if my dog, he'll come walking in and he'll be all behind me. Or I remember one day I was doing a podcast interview, and I was having some work done in my house, and you could literally see the man climbing up behind my
Oh,
window.
really?
Oh my God. And my son said to me, he said, Ma, it's real life and people
It
want to
is.
see your real life.
It is. You know what? And I knew he was going to do it. The other one was in here, and I kind of shooed him away. But I mean, this is your podcast, and I didn't want to. But
It's
you
like
know,
it's real
the
life.
the
It's real
pande
life.
and the pandemic has taught us that was one of the good things that came out the pandemic, where now, whereas you was in somebody's office, now you're in somebody's home, and what happens in my home happens in my home, and I can't control all of these things. But nevertheless, um, when it comes to the help, on a serious note, I think sometimes we need to lean back and ask the women veterans, how can we help you?
Okay.
A lot of times folks say, okay, well, we've heard that these are the issues that they have, so we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then it's kind of like you don't get the response that you want. So I would advise folks to, even if it's around Veterans Day, say, hey, our local church is having a here's a plug for Dr. Alvarado. We're having a high tea, and we just want women veterans to come, and we're going to sit and chat. We want you to tell us how we can better serve you. You have served us by serving your country. How can we
Okay.
serve you? And
Okay.
I think there lies an opportunity to really, quote unquote, get behind the veil.
I am writing that down. I'm
Yeah,
glad you brought that. You said that because
yeah,
I'm going to write that down and I'm going to get with Michelle and we're going to make that happen.
yeah.
Okay. And any of you that are listening and watching this podcast, I want you to write down some things as you're listening to Ginger, write down some things that you can do to support women veterans in your community or in your
Mhm,
family or in your church.
mhm.
Okay, go ahead. Uh-huh.
Because you may find that in your community, you may not have women veterans who are homeless
Mhm.
or women veterans who may need socks, right? But you may find somebody who may need assistance with food insecurities or just some professional woman veteran to talk to or
Okay.
professional woman veteran in business to talk to or maybe somebody to mentor me in the civilian sector. And I think that's where people miss it. They just focus on the bottom level.
Okay.
But women veterans, we have so many needs. Like, I'm not homeless anymore, right? I don't need socks, I don't need food, right? But my need is to give back,
Mm.
right? So you
Mhm.
may have some women veterans in the community that want to come out to one of your events to help you serve the community.
Okay.
Do you
Okay.
see what I'm saying? And for her, it may help her with her mental health and wellness
Just
because now that I've taken off the uniform, I have that desire to give back.
yeah, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? So and again, sometimes it's better to listen before we set up these things, and then you may think it's a failure, but it's not really a failure. You
It's
just
just you
maybe
didn't listen. You're not scratching where they're itching.
that's exactly right. That you're not. Let me tell you something. So many people have missed that, and they think like at WVI, like I have this magic wand, but I know where I'm itching at, so I'm scratching it because I'm a woman veteran. It's tiresome and it's hard work only because you still have people that feel women veterans don't need their own nonprofits or programs, which is crazy to me because and I don't fault folks. I just tell people like this: look, as women veterans, we're technically a part of the women's movement.
Uh-huh.
But anybody that knows me know I'm quote unquote here for that, and we're gonna make it work. We've been here for 12 years now, and 11 years, and we're going strong. We're getting stronger every day, and because of my advocacy work and what I've done, like I've gone from being a homeless woman veteran to a presidential appointee. Who does that? So
It's
I
amazing. I
who,
mean, absolutely amazing.
and I'm grateful to God for it, and I know that it's a blessing, and I understand my gifts and I use them wisely. So I know that everybody's not going to wake up and be homeless and then get recognized by not one president but two presidents in the same year. Because I'm also a part of President Obama's oral history project that's going to be housed at. I think it's going to be housed at his library in Chicago and then also in Columbia University. Like that's major, right?
It's very major.
But if I wasn't doing this type of work, I don't know if I would have that type of recognition. So it goes back to the point of why did I start? Where am I going? Why do I stay?
Mm.
So every time I feel like, oh my God, like I'm done, God to say, you know what? Let me give you a little bit of something. I'm not gonna put everything back because you're not gonna, you know, because I feel like this. People always say, oh, well, God, show me a sign. Well, what if God had to show you the good sign and the bad sign?
Mm.
What if God had said, Ginger, you're going to go into the military. You're going to be great. You're going to be a star. Like everybody's going to love you. You're going to be natural. People are going to, but you got to go through this to get there. I'd be like, you know what? Then take me straight to Wall Street. Let me go and rumble with those dudes on Wall Street and make my gazillions of dollars and
Because
my
you wouldn't
skirts
have
and my
never chosen homelessness as your way.
never, never,
Yeah.
never. So a lot of times we just have to be mindful of, the paths that we're on because WVI has impacted thousands of women veterans and thousands more that I don't even know that just see the presence on social media.
Yeah.
And you may get that note to say, you know what, I was going to give up today, Miss Ginger, but because of you, well, then let's go. Let's get it. Like, and I just thank God for keeping me because it's hard work. And there was a time where I would feel ashamed to be like a quote unquote one woman show because we don't have a staff, right? We have some great volunteers that have been here for years, and it's not like every day, but like I've done all of this through the grace of God, and now I'm to a point where I'm proud of that. I
Yeah.
used to be ashamed of that, but I'm like, no, you can't do it. They can't do it. So if you got to pick up the phone, or if you get that email where people are saying, "Oh, well, can you have one of your staff members to send me?" No, I am that staff member. Before I used to feel bad, but now it's like, no, Ginger, you have done something great.
Wow. Yeah,
Don't be ashamed
that's
of the
good.
blessings that you have bestowed upon you that you have poured out to other people.
Wow.
You see what I'm
You
saying?
know,
And, and,
you
and
you I'm telling you, you are it's I'm just sitting here just in awe of the work that you're doing, and you're telling me you don't have a staff? You're doing
I do
all this
not.
by yourself?
I do not. You know what? I have a chief operating officer, Sharon Green. We have members that step in, but day to day,
Okay, I hear you.
if we want to get there, but because of the pushback, it took so long to get here. But like 2023 is going to be our year. It's going to be the year that we raise our first $1 million. I'm sure because I feel it coming. Multiple, I feel that coming. Um, but it goes back to one of those things where, okay, God, I did it. Like, oh my God, like it's done. I believe the hard part is done. I know it's done. So now we about to walk into the quote unquote overflow, and there you find all of your employees and everybody else. So now everybody else understands that it's real. It was always real to me, and it was always real to the women that we serve. But other people will look and say, "Well, I'm not too sure about that thing because like nobody else is doing it. Like, why is she the only? Because I'm the only one bold enough to get it done."
And then your consistency now and your record is what's gonna
Correct.
draw other people to it.
Correct.
Donors, all those benefactors, people that
Yes.
will just I was reading through your bio, all the partners that you've already gained.
And there's more, some who have tripled their investment through the pandemic. um it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where I feel like, okay, I've had my head down and my hands to the plow for the last 11 years, and now I can stand up. And I'm not saying look up, I'm saying stand up. And then there was a quote on Facebook, and I'm going to ad lib it here, and it says something in reference to, you weren't being rejected. God just didn't introduce you to those people. Oh,
Mm,
God didn't let them know your value because they were not a part of your destiny.
mm, okay.
So whereas some people will look at me like, oh, she's valuable, other people will say, oh, I think that organization is a liability. Well, guess what? We're going to keep it moving because you're not a part of my destiny. Next.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
see what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, on to the next because
And you don't have time for that. You got women veterans to help
absolutely. And
that
if
are
you
looking for you.
Absolutely. And if you can't get past the fact that, women veterans really need our own program, or this organization is run by an African American woman, that's not my problem. Because what I believe, as an African American woman and a juggernaut in the industry, the victory is going to be that much more sweeter. And then what it's going to do is open up doors for other women who want to do something similar, women veterans who want to do something similar, because in this industry, you've had more women veteran organizations to open and close than
Yeah.
those of us who are still here.
Okay. Okay.
And that's a part of the reason why I always say, because I'm up for the challenge. Like, where else would I put all this energy? My kids are grown. That's why I have two cats.
Well, Ginger, I'm telling you, you have really, really helped us. I want to say thank you for, I mean, I want to salute you and thank you for your service to our nation. And thank you for your service to women veterans. I want to, before we sign off, I do want to let people know where they can find you, how they can connect with you. For those of you that, all that are just tuning in, you are listening to the Harmonize Your Life Conversations on Self Care for Women of Color podcast with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. Today, we are talking about self care and women, self care for women veterans, self care for women veterans, and our special guest has been today, Mrs. Ginger Miller, and she is the founder of the Women's Veterans Interactive Foundation. And you have heard about all the programs and the help that they are providing, services that they are providing on a regular basis, not just on Veterans Day, but on a regular basis. I need to say that, Ginger. All year long, they are out here and they are serving women veterans. Okay. You can find them at women's veterans interactive.org, women veterans interactive.org. Also, they have a Facebook page. I put Ginger's Facebook page there. You can follow her at Ginger Bain Miller on Facebook, or you can go to the Women's Veterans Interactive Foundation page on Facebook. They have a page there where you can find out all the work that they are doing there. You can also follow them on Instagram at Veterans Interactive, Women Veterans Interactive. Go there. And then on Twitter, you can find them at Women Vet Action, Women Vet Action. And on LinkedIn, you can find Ginger at Ginger Bain Miller. I am so glad that you took the time out of your busy schedule to come on and have this conversation with me in salute, in honor of Veterans Day, in honor of women veterans, all the veterans that are listening to this podcast today. We salute you and we thank you for your service to our nation. And so, as we close out, Ginger, I would like for you to give us one final word of instruction, encouragement, instruction, wisdom, whatever you want to leave with us today concerning self-care and for women veterans. If you want to speak directly to a veteran that's listening to us, a female veteran, a woman who's a veteran, or her family, her ecosystem, whoever, whatever, speak to us and give us that final word of encouragement, instruction, and wisdom.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alvarado. It was truly an honor to be here today, and I'm so glad that Michelle connected us. Love the conversation. Would love to have more conversation, and maybe
We
even,
will.
come down and stop by the next time I'm in Atlanta. But if there's any women veterans today that are listening to this podcast, it's going to be a replay that's listening to the podcast. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There is nothing that you're going through right now that another woman veteran has not conquered, or that another woman veteran may be going through similarly. And just know that you're not alone. You're not alone. Thank you so much for your service and sacrifice to our country. To anybody out there that knows a woman veteran, check in on her, especially during the holiday season. Make sure she's okay. And to my earlier point, just ask a woman veteran, how can I serve you? You served me by serving the country, and now I want to serve you. What can I do to help? Thank you so much, Dr. Alvarado.
Wow. Thank you again. That was great admonition, great word. I hope all of us who are listening will take heed. I wrote down some things that I can do as it relates to supporting. I have several women in my church who are veterans,
Nice.
and I have women in my sorority who are veterans,
Oh,
and
nice.
so yes. So I mean, we need to do better about reaching out to the women veterans, women in my family who are veterans, and so all of us are being called to task. And I
Hmm.
appreciate you for bringing awareness, creating awareness through your organization, through the Women's Veterans Interactive Foundation, for doing things like you're doing today, being on my podcast and other places that you're being asked to come and speak to help all of us support our veterans, not just our women, but our men as well. Thank
Mhm.
you again for your service to our nation, and thank you for your service through the Women's Veteran Interactive Foundation.
Thank you. I really enjoyed my time. Hopefully, you'll invite me back
I
again for
will.
something
I
similar.
will. And we need to talk how we can collaborate.
Absolutely.
I have a foundation as well. We have work that we do at the church. So maybe we can do some things together. Maybe your next event in Atlanta, we can come in and be a partner and help support in some type of way.
Absolutely. I have some ideas already.
Okay. Well, we'll
Thank you,
talk.
Dr. Alvarado. Mwah.
You stay right
Appreciate
there
you.
just a minute and we're going to talk about that. All right. All right. Listen, y'all. This has been a wonderful way to kick off the month of November. Share this podcast episode with every woman veteran that you know. Share it with your community. Share it with your network, your ecosystem, your church, your family. Share it and get the word out and be a blessing to a woman veteran in this season as we celebrate Veterans Day. Let's not forget our women veterans. All right. We'll see you on next week for another intriguing podcast episode on Harmonize Your Life, conversations on self-care for women of color with your host, Dr. Toni G. Alvarado. We'll see you soon. Hi, this is Dr. Toni Alvarado, and I want to personally invite you to join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network. Join us for fitness motivation, health and wellness information, inspiration, self-care strategies, and ideas for creating harmony in your life. As a certified health and wellness coach, it is one of my greatest honors to support women in their fitness, health, wellness, and self-care goals. Join the Harmonize Your Life Women's Self-Care Network, and we will do you good on your journey.